When you think of desire, design, and discipline, you should think of Peter Gray. Peter Gray, are you familiar with them? Sports fans? Baseball player, 1945? Any of this ringing a bell? Well, Peter Gray's lifelong dream was to play in the major leagues. And he did it. Well, he only played 1 year, and he played for the St. Louis Browns. He wasn't a regular, and he only hit 1 home run. However, Peter Gray is a success story and should be in the Hall of Fame because he did it all without a right arm. See, success isn't being dealt a good hand. It's taking the hand you are dealt and using it to the best of your ability. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're going to talk about the choices you have in your life. We're going to touch on hope and the role it plays in goal setting and planning. We'll review why people do and don't have a goals program. Very interesting. And finally, we're going to talk about the changes that you can make in your life for a goals program and planning. Now, if you only take one thing from what I talk about today, make it this, that you have choices. And the choices we have are incredible. So how many of you believe that there's something you could do to make your personal life, your professional life, or your family life worse? Do you have some choices you could make and it would make it worse? How many of you believe that there's something you can do to make your personal life, your family life, or your business life better? And how many of you believe the choice is yours? And how many of you believe every choice has an end result? So let me summarize what you've just said. And you may not even realize it. What you've said is that I don't really care what's happened in the past. I don't even care where I am right now because there is something that I can specifically do right now to make my future better or worse. And the choice is mine. That realization is unbelievable because it stops the blame game and it focuses on making changes. I read a study claiming that people who constantly think about where they want to go and how they're going to get there don't feel as bad about what's going on currently and rarely blame other people for their situation. So you have a choice as to what decisions you make, and you have a choice. We have choices. It's an amazing power that we do have. So the first choice is to take 100% responsibility of your life. That means giving up, blaming, excuses, denial. Oh yeah, and complaining. Lou Holt says, the man who complains about the way the ball bounces is likely the one who dropped the ball. And all blame is a waste of time, no matter how much fault you find with another. And regardless of how much you blame him, it's not going to change you. Take 100% responsibility. Dr. Robert Resnick, a psychotherapist in LA, created the formula E plus R equals O. This means event plus response equals outcome. When things happen, people are very fast to go to the event or the outcome and blame it and complain about it. And they forget that there's a response in there. You'll never be successful as long as you continue to blame somebody else or something else for your success. I remember a couple years ago when the recession was going on, somebody said, I heard there's a recession going on, and I chose not to participate. Remember, your response is going to determine the outcome. You're the one who ate the junk food. You're the one who didn't say no. You're the one who ignored your intuition, abandoned your dream, bought it. You didn't take care of something. You didn't plan. You didn't do any goal setting. That's going to determine your outcome. Jackie Robinson would never have played in the major leagues. Denzel Washington would never have been a movie star, and Aaron Brockovich would never have discovered the contamination in the water in Hinckley if only the event was to blame. If you don't like your outcome, change your responses. Another choice that we have is what we feed our mind. You can change who you are, what you are, and where you're going when you change what goes into your mind. You can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction in a second. Feed the positive and you will be positive. Being positive creates hope, and hope is the foundational quality of all change. I did not say that hope is a strategy. Let me be perfectly clear. Hope is not a strategy. It is the foundational quality of all change. Without hope, the student won't study. Why bother? I'm going to fail. Without hope, that salesperson won't make that next phone call or that next cold call or walk in somewhere that they feel uncomfortable. Hope is the foundational quality of all change. I want to go back about the positive, because being positive doesn't mean that I can do anything. If we were stranded on an island and somebody needed an emergency appendectomy, I wouldn't be able to do that no matter how positive I am. But being positive is a positive mental attitude that allows you to have hope in the future, which gives you power in the present and the ability to solve problems. John Maxwell says, if there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. So today is the day. Today is the day that you can make a choice to change. Tony Campolo, a professor at Eastern University, who's authored over 28 books, says that your past is important because it's brought you to where you are, but as important as your past is, it's not nearly as important as the way you see your future. The way you see your future determines your thinking today, and your thinking today determines your performance today. Your performance today has the strongest bearing on what your future holds. So today's the day you can make the choice to change. Now, have you ever come across somebody negative? Oh, you know the type. No matter what the weather is, it's never to the liking. All the problems they have are never because of the choices they've made. They haven't been introduced to event plus response equals outcome. Oh, these people are just energy drainers. Well, let's forget about them. Let's talk about somebody else's problem. Let's talk about world leaders like Martin Luther King, Helen Keller, Winston Churchill, Mother Teresa. A study was done that 75% of world-class leaders were raised in poverty. But they understood it's not what happens to you, it's how you handle what's happened to you that makes all the difference. People who learn to overcome challenges at an early age can set the tone for the rest of their life on how they deal with adversity. I don't think these people chose to blame an event. Have you ever suffered a loss or a setback? Many people say, well, I failed so many times. Why try? Remember that failure is an event. It's not a person. It's an attitude, not an outcome. If you set a goal and you didn't reach it, you didn't fail. You set a goal that you didn't reach. Failure gives you the opportunity to find a better solution, and that's positive. Most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who kept trying when there seemed no hope at all. Think about Edison. How many times did he fail before he was able to successfully invent the light bulb? And when I talk about that seemingly no hope at all, it might seem that way to an outside person, but that inside person knows that there's more hope. Think of one of your favorite athletes. They've probably overcome some really tough setbacks and losses and continue to focus and move forward and focus on the future. So failure is an event, not a person. Life is a series of peaks and valleys, and without the valleys, you'll never know how to reach the peaks and really appreciate the view. If you don't, for those of you who don't know this, I was raised in Pittsburgh, PA, and if you've never had the privilege of spending time there or hanging out with real Pittsburghese people, you may not be familiar with the term yuns. Yuns is the southern equivalent of y'all, and Pittsburghers have an ability to combine words together and kind of leave out some vowels. So bear with me as we go through this story. Well, being raised in Pittsburgh, I was a big Steeler fan and a Penn State fan. So I hope I don't make too many enemies when I say this, but in 2005, Penn State finished 11-1. What's interesting though is In 2003, they were 3-9. And in 2004, they were 4-7. So I want to share this with you in my best Pittsburghese accent I can, and the combining of correct words. You don't think they could have turned that team around without any hope? Hope was the foundation there in order for them to get back off the bench, get back in the training room, and continue working endlessly in order to turn that around from 2 horrific, embarrassing seasons. I'm sure many of you have attended those games when Ohio State pounded on Penn State and still continues to do. The way you see the future is so important, but you have to have a plan for it. You were born to win, but in order to be the winner you were born to be, you have to have a plan to win, prepare to win, and then and only then can you legitimately expect to win. Winning is not an accident. It's the result of a deliberate plan. Success is a combination lock, and when you know the combination, you can unlock your potential, regardless of your race, education, male or female. When you know the combinations, you can unlock it. Success doesn't just happen. It's a result of a lot of hard work. Sometimes somebody else's success can look so easy. We like to hear that myth of overnight success, but the reality is if you sat down with someone and asked them if it happened fast, the answer is almost always no. It was the result of many years of hard work to get them to the point where we now know their name. If success came too easy, a lot of times failure happens after. You see, the peaks and the valleys are important because the valleys are where you really learn what you're made of. I read somewhere that 81% of lottery winners end up in jail or bankrupt 10 years after winning the lottery. Winners make good choices. And when the going gets tough, the tough get hopeful. You'll rarely find a successful person who hasn't been in the valleys because that's where we build character. Although we don't ask for the tough times, I doubt anybody jumps out of bed and says, oh boy, I hope today's a tough day. I hope I get some really big challenges to help me build character. Because the reality is problems produce patience, patience produce persistence, persistence produce character, character produces hope, and hope produces power. My husband and I have a saying that we like to joke around about, that if somebody is very difficult for us and we really need to grow in dealing with them, that they're like fertilizer, right? They're helping us grow. And if we really don't like them, we call them the manure in our lives. They've helped us to grow though. So when we can change the perspective of someone who's been challenging to you, and if you've been able to grow through it, or if tomorrow something is challenging and you look for the opportunity to turn it into fertilizer so that you can grow. Who's the most hopeful person that you know? Because hope creates vision. And how important is vision? Well, a study was done actually at Ohio State where they brought in 3 different teams of basketball players. They used kids who played intramural sports, but they used 3 different ways to practice. So they brought the first group in, and that group, all they did was practice foul shots. They'd come in every day for the allotted time and practice foul shooting. Just get the ball, shoot the ball, get the ball, shoot the ball. So the second group did nothing. They graded how well they were at foul shooting, and then they said, come back in 2 weeks. The third group, they had them come in, and they did not shoot a ball. What they did is they visualized shooting the ball. So they would come in and somebody would actually talk them through the visualness of getting the ball, bouncing the ball, tossing the ball, taking it back again, bending over, bending their knees. Imagine hearing the sound of the ball when it bounces. So at the end of 2 weeks, they graded the performance, and they actually found that the group who did the foul shooting improved 23%, and the group who did the visualizing improved 21%. And the group that did nothing, they even got worse. So imagine if you can take the actual practice and combine it with the visualization. How important is vision to your future. So we all have goals, whether we know it or not. There's something around in your mind that makes you function every day and get through it. So goals are important. We can all agree on that. But written goals that create accountability make all the difference. Accountability is what leads to accomplishment. A study done of Yale business students 20 years after graduating found that 70% of them did not have written or verbal goals. I'm sure they had them in their mind somewhere. 27% had verbal, and 3% had written goals down. Now, here's the interesting fact that the 3% of people who had written goals actually maintained 98% of the total wealth in that group. Are you sold yet on having a goals plan? Okay, so a goals program sounds great, and now we see the value in it. How do we make sure that we have a good one that really is built around what we want and need? Very interesting survey was done at USA Today. I always love their surveys they have at the bottom. They asked employers what they thought their employees wanted. Let's see what you would say. Then they also asked employees what they wanted. So it'll be interesting to see how they're the same or different. So the employer said that the employees wanted more money, right? I hear that a lot. And they want job security. That makes sense. And they want the opportunity to advance and grow. They want the opportunity to advance for growth. What did employees say they wanted? They said, number one, interesting work. Number two, appreciation for the work they've done. And number three, feeling of being in on things. Don't make us learn everything through the grapevine. Where was money on that list of what employees said they wanted? Number 9. Job security was number 12, and opportunity for advancement was actually number 13. I work with so many different companies, and many times we'll talk about, well, you know, the salespeople will say they're money motivated. If they were truly money motivated, they really would work differently than they do. The interesting work and appreciation really does trump simply being money motivated. Think about a situation you may have seen where an employee gets a raise and they don't show any more excitement for the job, or they leave shortly after. Now, I don't think anyone would say, no, don't give me a raise. But understanding the difference between what employers think employees want and what employees actually want can make a huge difference in the workplace. So what does everybody want in life? Well, we all want basically the same things. We want to be healthy, happy, reasonably prosperous. That will change depending on who you talk to. Secure, have peace of mind, have friends, and hope that the future's going to be better. So is it possible to combine our workplace wants with our life wants? So as we talked about, employees' number one goal is to have a job that's interesting. Well, unfortunately, not every job is interesting all of the time. In fact, every job I've had certainly had parts of it that I didn't really like or find at all interesting. But if you can create an environment of respect and consideration, and the employee feels important, they might be willing to do the work that might not be that interesting. Now, some of you listening to this may say, yeah, my employer definitely needs to do this. But remember, whoever you're around, every teammate you have, you can show them respect. And every person is part of creating that environment of respect and consideration to overcome the work that might not be interesting. It's tough to separate your personal life from your professional life. And some of you out there may be saying, yes, I've done it, Tiffany, and I've done it well. No doubt you probably have. But would you agree that work goes better when your personal life is good, and your personal life goes better when your work life is good? Can you really separate the two? Trying to separate two of them is like separating Siamese twins. They're connected. So the qualities that make you a good parent, sibling, spouse, partner are the same qualities that make you a good employee, manager, teammate, neighbor, and friend. Because you take the qualities with you wherever you go, whatever setting, whatever environment is, you take those same qualities with you in that mindset. So if employees have peace of mind and a good home life and work life, doesn't it make sense that the company itself is going to be growing and prosperous? When we talk about mindset and how it makes such a difference in the way we approach things, it's going to impact personal and professional. And the better the mindset of the employees in the company, the better the company is going to do. So if you ever feel frustrated, first thing is to step back and inspect what's going on. Do a little checkup from the neck up. The primary reason for frustration and failure is that we trade what we want most for what we want now. We trade what we want most for what we want now. One word: discipline. Oh yeah, I'd really like to lose that 10 pounds, but ooh, that cheeseburger looks so good. Or I know I should quit smoking, but now I've been out a little bit and maybe just one. Or I'd really like to write a book, but right now I'd rather watch TV. The choices we make are going to determine where we go. Remember, your personal system, whatever you're doing right now, is perfectly designed to give you what you're getting. So who do you know that's disciplined, focused? They sacrifice to get what they want. Personally, I think of my friend Nichelle Turner from college. Coming out of school, she moved to Evansville, Indiana, earning $16,000 a year to pursue her dream in broadcast journalism. She also went to bed at 8 p.m. in order to wake up at 3 a.m. to be at the news station. Oh, she missed family reunions and weddings of our friends because she couldn't get the time off and she didn't have the money to travel. Her hard work has paid off, though. Since then, she became the host of Good Day LA. She was a CNN entertainment correspondent, and now she hosts Access Hollywood in the evenings. Her hard work has paid off. So we all have goals. So where are our goals taking us? See, the counterfeiter really wants what most of us want: to be happy, healthy, reasonably prosperous. The difference is he's trying to take a shortcut to prosperity, and we all know shortcuts rarely work and usually end up hurting our character. Okay, so there are 5 reasons why people don't have a goals program. Number 1 is fear, never been sold, poor self-image, never been taught, and not being held accountable. Now, you may say, nothing else there bothers me, but the accountability might be the one to get you. No matter what, everybody is impacted by one, if not 2, if not all of these. Fear is actually false evidence appearing real. Let me bring that to life for you. Imagine you are a teller at the bank and somebody walks up to you and what appears to be is a gun under their shirt and they demand money. What do? Now, the reality in this situation is that it's the person's hand underneath that shirt in the shape of a gun. But to you, it looks real. So false evidence appearing real. Viktor Serebryakov was told as a young man that he was a dunce, he was stupid, and he'd never amount to anything. So guess how he went about his daily life? In that exact manner. At one point, he was tested and found out that he was actually a genius. So all of a sudden, he started acting like a genius, thinking like a decision, making decisions like a genius, and he went on to be president of the Mensa Society. False evidence appearing real can stop you from moving forward. All right, number 2, never been sold. Well, we talked about the Yale study that showed us the 3% of students who had written goals had 97% of the wealth. That's pretty convincing. And on average, other studies show that people with a goals program earn $7,400 a month compared to those who don't, that are only at $3,300 a month. I don't need my calculator to understand that math. Healthy self-image. And you may think, Tiffany, I've got a great self-image. Maybe you do. Too much is ego and too little is poor self-image. It's really finding that balance. Wherever you are, changing self-talk is where the focus needs to be. A lot of studies out there that show how many negative thoughts we have. Now, realize negative thoughts don't only mean about yourself, they can also be about other people. So someone who's on the ego end thinks a lot of negative thoughts about other people. If you have a poor self-image, you're thinking too many negative thoughts about yourself. The statistics are astonishing, and I see them anywhere from 20 seconds to every 2 minutes is how often we have a negative thought. So changing that self-talk. One of the ways to change self-talk is through I am statements. And this is literally saying out loud by yourself the vision you have, whether it is I am a patient person, I am confident. People always, not always, but many times will laugh when I share this with them. They think of Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live. I promise you this works. I've had many people that I've worked with that have come back to say, people are seeing me differently. My perception of myself is different when they start filling in their I am statements with who they know they are and who they want others to see them as. Never been taught? Well, here's the good news. You are being taught now. You can also take this and use it to teach to your children. You can teach coworkers, friends. This is something that can be repeated over and over. All right, number 5, not being held accountable. Accountability leads to accomplishment. No one lives on an island. You're part of something so much bigger than that. So it seems like common sense to have a goals program. Why doesn't everybody do it? Number 1, we don't take the time. We don't have time to do it. Well, you probably don't have the time because you don't have a goals program. And also, if you feel like you need a little bit of tweaking when it comes to your time management, please go visit the time management module. Number 2, we don't put a process in place. The process is where the discipline comes in. And number 3, we don't obtain the tools and resources to stay focused. Have you ever seen those people? They come out of the gate, they're so excited, and then they burn out real fast. We need to make sure that we've got tools and resources to help us stay motivated. Before we leave the topic of time, remember what we talked about earlier. The biggest source of frustration is that we give up what we want most in order to get what we want now. So what are we giving up most? That goal of achieving more in our career or being able to save a certain amount of money for what we want right now. We want to go shopping right now, or we'd rather watch television instead of reading a book to further our career. The average American watches 33 hours of television a week. I don't know where your vice is or what you're watching, but chances are you're watching more than you really need to, even if you're not at 33 hours. And whether you've been a bride, you are planning a wedding, or you are married to somebody who did, the average bride takes 14 months to plan a wedding and over 10 hours a week. And that all goes into planning one day. I'm not saying that day isn't important, but a goals program is for the rest of your life. So we want to look at this from both a long-term and short-term strategy. A goals program takes you from survival, where you are pulling your hair out, feel like you can't get anything done, to stability. Once you're stable, you can then move to success, and then finally success to significance. Ann Landers says that opportunities are usually disguised as hard work, so most people don't recognize them. Are you recognizing them? Are you ready for your individualized goal program? So step 1, make a list of everything you want to be, do, or have. I want to be a better spouse. I want to be a great parent. I want to be a good employee. I want to be a great manager. I want to be on the sideline of a Steelers NFL game. That's mine. You do your own. Try to come up with a list of 101. That's a target list, but it's really going to push you below the surface. It's going to be easy to come up with the first 20, and then you're going to pause. Now, in order to keep your mind open about areas that might make sense for your life, go ahead and, if you haven't yet, print off the wheel and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 where you are in each one of these areas right now. Remember, it doesn't matter where you are, it's where you're going that matters. Once you've given yourself your rating on 1 to 10 on each line, then you want to connect the dots. Chances are you're going to have a pretty uneven wheel. It's about recognizing where are the important areas that you need to come into balance. I recently shared with my husband about an article regarding the benefits of a meatless diet. Now, don't mess with this man's meat. So the next day, he's a big researcher. He sent to me another article that said the problems of a meatless diet. It talked about it can bring on depression, anxiety, lack of energy. You know what? At the end of the day, it's probably what my grandmother always told me. Balance is best. So where's the balance in your life? All right, you've got your 101 list. Continue working through it now that you have that and your wheel. Use both of those pieces to determine your goals. Then pick your priorities. I recommend about 3 to 4 goals that you really want to work on. It's a mix of both personal and professional. Then you want to put them to your test. Is it really my goal? Is it yours, or is it something your parents told you should do, or something your spouse tells you should do? Is it really your goal? Can you see yourself reaching the goal? Do you see yourself crossing the finish line, breaking that ribbon, arms up in victory? And is it consistent with my other goals? The consistency is interesting. If your goal is to go back to graduate school, and then you also have a goal that you want to spend more time with your family, are they consistent with each other? Which one needs priority right now? Remember, it doesn't mean this is your goal the rest of your life. It's constantly changing. But right now, which one do you need to focus on? What's going to bring your life into balance? Okay, we're rounding it out. So you've got a lot of homework to do before you start that next session. Make sure that you finalize your top 2 to 3 goals that you want to work on. Then you can start your next training. Then and only then. If you do it too early, you're not going to be ready yet. You will either take goals and planning for sales professionals or goals and planning. The difference is for salespeople, they're going to also be doing a marketing plan. You guys are ready to go. Be, do, have, your wheel of life. There's going to come a time where you're either going to say, gosh, I wish I had, or I'm glad I did. Until next time.